Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something so incredibly common, you might think you know all about it, water. But our sources suggest there's a whole secret life to water, far more extraordinary than we might have imagined. We're going way beyond its familiar roles today. We're exploring some really cutting-edge hypotheses, things like its quantum states, maybe even a connection to consciousness, and how it all fits into biology, and maybe even this grand framework called the HHCR2E. Now, that acronym, it stands for something pretty ambitious, right? A theory of everything, aiming to link, well, everything from tiny particles to consciousness using ideas like coherence and resonance. Think of it as a kind of speculative map for how water fits into this huge picture. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is how this, seemingly simple stuff, HEOU, might actually hold keys to some of the biggest questions out there. This deep dive, it pulls from a pretty comprehensive study of water. It looks at the known chemistry, the quantum side, and tries to integrate it with that broader HHHV TOE framework, which, like you said, is all about unifying life, consciousness, maybe even cosmic coherence through these resonant fields, how everything might be connected.
Okay, so let's start with the basics, the familiar stuff. Water, HO. Essential for all life we know. It exists as liquid, solid ice, gas, steam. But even these common forms hide some really unusual properties that make it vital, like it's a polarity. Water molecules are like tiny magnets, yeah. A positive side, a negative side. And that polarity lets them form hydrogen bonds. These bonds are just crucial. They make water molecules stick together. That's cohesion. Create surface tension, lets insects walk on water. And they also let water cling to other things. Adhesion. That's how water climbs up plant roots. Capillary action against gravity. And think about heat. Its ability to absorb and release heat is incredible. High specific heat capacity, high heat of vaporization. I mean, that's literally why oceans regulate climate, why sweating cools us down. It buffers temperatures. Then there's the density thing. Ice floats. If it sank, lakes would freeze solid, killing everything. Just that one weird quirk protects whole ecosystems. It's amazing. Plus, it's the universal solvent. It dissolves so many things. Crucial for nutrients in our bodies, in plants, and it helps maintain pH balance. And it's not just sitting there during reactions. It's often in the reaction, reacted to a product.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to that bigger picture, these aren't just quirks, right? They're fundamental for life emerging. The HHHCR2E, it views water's hydrogen bonding, its coherence, as really essential for biological complexity, even planetary stability. It's almost like water is showing us how these fundamental coherence fields work on a molecular level, reflecting these universal resonance dynamics, sustaining life.
It really is incredible. That little quirk about ice floating, a lifesaver, makes you appreciate ice cubes more. So, okay, even at the basic level, water's the superstar. But here's where it gets really interesting, the quantum side. It turns out water's behavior is deeply influenced by really complex quantum stuff. For starters, its shape, that bent molecule, the 104.5-degree angle, that's key. It's because of lone electron pairs on the oxygen, giving it that dipole moment, that polarity we mentioned, a tiny electric dipole. But it gets weirder. Water molecules aren't static. They vibrate. They stretch, they bend in specific ways, and quantum mechanically, they can exist in multiple vibrational states at the same time. Superposition. Like a coin spinning, both heads and tails. And get this, proton tunneling. Hydrogen atoms can actually tunnel through energy barriers. It's like a tiny ghost walking through a wall. Pure quantum mechanics. Shouldn't happen classically, but it does. And even the whole network of hydrogen bonds, it can show collective quantum behavior. Influences how energy moves through the water.
Right, and this raises a really important question. If water has these inherent quantum behaviors, maybe it's more than just a passive background, more than just a solvent. The HHHCR-TOE framework definitely suggests that. It posits that these quantum properties are, well, extensions of fundamental coherence, these resonance dynamics, forming coherent quantum fields. What's fascinating here is the idea that this hydrogen bond network itself might be a coherent quantum field, actively interacting with, bigger energy fields, maybe even higher dimensions.
Which leads to this really mind-bending idea, the supermolecule. Okay, so each HO molecule is separate, but the huge dynamic network of hydrogen bonds makes a volume of water act almost like one single coherent thing. This incredibly linked network lets water transfer energy, transfer information really efficiently across its whole structure. It hints at this collective entity responding to fields, like all the molecules are singing in perfect harmony. Okay, now let's move to what some people call the fourth state of water. This isn't your standard liquid, solid, or gas. It's called structured water, or easy water, exclusion zone water, or interfacial water. And it forms near hydrophilic surfaces, water-loving surfaces, like our cell membranes. And this state, it has some really distinct properties. It's much more organized, almost like a liquid crystal. Molecules are packed tighter. higher cohesion than normal water. And crucially, it separates charge, creates a negative zone right near the surface, and a positive zone in the bulk water further out, like a tiny battery. It's also more viscous, denser than regular liquid water.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how vital this structured water seems to be inside our cells. Maintaining cell structure, helping reactions, moving ions around, it acts like a kind of gel matrix, essential for communication between cells for metabolism. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the HHCR TOE view, this structured waters order, its charge separation, well, that could be a manifestation of these coherence fields interacting with higher dimensions, facilitating energy storage, energy transfer in biology. It suggests water isn't passive at all, it's actively organizing energy.
So basically, structured water acts like a kind of transducer
Yeah.
for coherent resonance, enhancing cell communication, metabolism, maybe even regulating our biofield by holding and distributing coherence. It's already pretty mind-bending, isn't it? But our sources suggest there's maybe an even more profound state. Highly theoretical, but wow, could you introduce this fifth state?
Absolutely. And yeah, hold on to your hats for this one. We're taking a big leap now into what's been hypothesized as the fifth state, quantum water. The really intriguing idea here is that this state of water might act as a kind of hyperspace transducer for consciousness, for intelligence, especially within these tiny structures in our cells called microtubules. You find loads of them in brain cells. Now, you might have heard of the Penrose-Hameroff theory. It already suggests microtubules are involved in quantum processes linked to consciousness. Quantum water kind of expands on that. It proposes that a special, supercoherent state of water inside these tubes is the real key, the conduit. This quantum water, hypothetically, could sustain entanglement across networks, meaning distant brain parts could be instantly linked, quantum information transfer, it would have even higher coherence than structured water, and incredibly, it might be sensitive to influences from higher dimensions, an interface between physical reality and, well, hyperspace.
Wow. Okay, so this raises a huge question. If this theory holds water, pardon the pun, could quantum water be the bridge, the biological link allowing consciousness to interact with physical reality?
Yeah.
Transmitting signals from hyperspace. And what does that mean for intelligence?
Exactly. It suggests intelligence might involve integrating information across totally different scales, different dimensions even, with quantum water making that possible. And what's fascinating here from the HHCR TOE perspective is how this quantum water idea aligns so well. It fits with universal coherence, resonance fields, quantum water acting as the conduit for these hypersymmetric interactions, linking the physical body to higher dimensional coherence. It implies consciousness isn't just stuck in the brain, but extends out into these higher dimensions. It's a radical idea.
Okay, let's drill down a bit. How might this quantum water be, like organized inside those microtubules? The sources talk about an advanced topological structure, forming a hyperfractal field. Hyperfractal. What does that even mean? Well, think of a fractal like a coastline. Zoom in. It looks similar, right? Jagged shapes repeating. Now imagine that self-similarity happening not just when you zoom in spatially, but as you sort of zoom through different dimensions we don't normally see. It's like this incredibly complex, multi-layered information network folding in on itself, enabling really complex interactions. And the structure of microtubules, these cylinders made of tubulin protein, might be the perfect place to house this kind of geometrically organized water. The implications for the brain are just huge. For integrating neural activity, maybe neurons could communicate via quantum coherence through this field, enabling some kind of non-local signaling for integrated consciousness, much faster processing than just neurons firing, and for memory, learning. Maybe this hyperfractal field supports storing and retrieving information on multiple scales, explaining things current neuroscience struggles with, accessing information almost instantly across different levels.
And what's fascinating here again is how perfectly this hyperfractal idea fits with the HHCR TOE's concept of multidimensional coherence fields. It suggests biological systems might literally be resonating with the underlying hypersymmetric structure of space itself, channeling coherent energy for life, for consciousness. This could be a physical manifestation of how a multidimensional coherence field interacts with quantum reality, with hyperspace. It offers this incredibly unified picture.
So it keeps coming back to this idea of unity. Biological systems connected to cosmic coherence, consciousness, intelligence, maybe not just brain functions, but multidimensional phenomena linked to the fabric of space. It's a really grand vision. Okay, so what does all this mean for us, for you listening? Why should you care about water at this incredibly deep theoretical level? Let's think about the future. Research, technology, even philosophy. Research-wise, figuring out how to study this stuff. Quantum water. It's tough. People propose using ultrasensitive spectroscopy, trying to detect quantum entanglement in biology, building complex theoretical models and simulations. But the big challenge, obviously, is getting hard empirical evidence, proof. Especially for quantum water as a hyperspace lake. We're really at the frontier here.
Technologically, though, the potential is pretty exciting. Just understanding water's energy properties in these coherent states could inspire new tech. Maybe coherence engines or resonance fields that mimic water's heat capacity, its energy transfer, could lead to advanced computing, coherence-based systems, bio-inspired networks processing information differently, maybe even AI systems that simulate or interact with biological coherence, or water-based memristors, memory resistors, or tiny actuators using these quantum effects.
And the medical side is really compelling, too. If quantum water helps stabilize coherence in microtubules, could that lead to new ways to tackle neurodegenerative diseases? Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS. Maybe preserving cognitive coherence, cell function. It also seems to connect strongly with ideas in energy medicine, where water is seen as a medium for healing, suggests new mechanisms for repair, resilience.
And philosophically, conceptually, this really challenges how we see reality. It boosts the idea that consciousness might be a field, extending beyond just the brain, maybe non-local, connected to some larger universal intelligence. It suggests life itself is a manifestation of quantum coherence, of resonance fields, making water this universal conduit for coherence, for intelligence, across the whole universe, bridging the material and maybe the non-material. This view allows us to see consciousness not just emerging from the brain, but as something fundamental, multidimensional.
So we've gone from everyday HO, the stuff you drink, all the way to these, well, mind-bending possibilities of quantum water inside our cells, potentially linking us to higher dimensions. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, and if we connect it all back to that bigger picture, this deep dive really shows how water, something so seemingly simple, might just hold the key to bridging the physical and the non-physical. Offering this unified vision of life, consciousness, the cosmos, it definitely challenges us to look beyond the surface.
So next time you pour a glass of water, maybe pause for a second. Consider this. Could you be holding this secret to the universe's inherent intelligence, the very nature of your own consciousness, right there in your hands? What might that really mean for how we understand ourselves and our place in this vast cosmos? Something to think about.